Hello and welcome to another episode of Gun Floor Questions. This is Firearm Freedom, and in this episode of Gun Floor Questions, we're going to be talking about the extremely controversial debate, and that is, what is the best defensive caliber that you could buy? So this one might get a few of you a little bit heated. I know that when I'm on the gun floor at work, this is a question that gets asked pretty much 3 to 4 times a day, and that's not even an exaggeration. Let's get going with the number one kind of thing you need to consider when looking at the best caliber for you and the best defensive caliber, and that is going to be this myth, yes, I said myth, of stopping power or knockdown power or all this other types of power that you're gonna hear. I used to be a firm believer in the stopping power myth, and I would look at things as far as charts, as the percentage, of one-shot stop that the FBI put out a couple years ago. The problem with this, and the problem with any sort of police statistics, is they're very, very hard to get accurate information from. Now, is there a difference in energy and kinetic energy when it hits a target, as far as the difference between, a 12 gauge shotgun slug versus a 22 long rifle bullet? Obviously, yes, there is a difference. Difference in energy is going to be there. The size of the temporary cavity versus permanent cavity is going to be there. But at the end of the day, guys, I don't think it matters as much as everybody thinks it does, when it all comes down to what is really going to stop somebody, which is getting rounds on target. That is center mass, that is center of the skull, right behind the nose here, and that also is a certain area in the pelvic girdle. Now, if those areas are not hit, generally the size of the bullet is not going to matter at all. Let's dispel that myth of stopping power. Let's dispel that myth of saying 45 has 84.5% more of a chance to stop you in one shot if you're using Corbon ammunition in these types of cases. I think it's just way too inaccurate to tell it that exactly. At the end of the day, if that bullet, if that type of ammunition does not hit the proper shot placement and extreme blood loss isn't caused, it's not going to really do anywhere near as much as if you took a smaller bullet and actually hit that spot you're trying to hit to stop that person. So let's move away from that, and let's also state from this that all of these calibers on this table right here are lethal. They will all kill you if they're hit somebody, again, in that proper shot area. I've had so many people come in, and for some reason they think, if you go anything lower than a 45, like a 9mm, it's just going to scare them. It's not lethal whatsoever, and that's couldn't be further from the truth. So let's move on to our second point. What is the best gun for you? A lot of people will literally choose a bad gun for them, a gun that doesn't fit them well, just because they want to get it in a larger caliber. This makes absolutely no sense to me at all. And again, this all comes down to, you think that, the 45, and I use the 45 specifically because that's honestly what's touched on a lot, is going to be the 40 and 45 for these people that want that stopping power compared to 9mm, 22 LR, or other things. So they'll choose a 45 caliber option when it doesn't fit them well at all, and the only reason they're choosing that is because of the caliber size. I literally had this happen to me 2 days ago. I had a customer choose a bad option for them, and I asked, just out of curiosity, why are you going with the 45 versus other options that would fit you a little bit better as far as the size of the gun and so on. And they said, well, I don't want to go anything lower than 45 because I don't want to scare them, I want to actually stop them. Again, guys, these are just completely wrong points of view here, and it just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. The next thing that you're going to want to look at is capacity. So I have a lot of people making that decision to minimize that capacity. They're going to take a hit in capacity just to get a bigger bullet. This, again, to me makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Why would you choose the exact same gun? So let's take, for instance, a Glock 26 and a Glock 27, right? You have the 26, which is 9mm. You have the Glock 27, which is 40 caliber. Why choose less in the magazine for 2 calibers when you can get plus P 9mm that's going to act and get almost the exact same speeds as a 40 caliber bullet? For me, I look at whatever handgun that I can get the most capacity in and whatever long gun I can get the most capacity in. Capacity is a huge deal for me, and that is mainly because of active shooter situations and also home invasion situations where time and time again we see multiple armed people involved. And whenever there's multiple people, whatever you have in your magazine starts to look slimmer and slimmer and slimmer. So that is why I generally choose the largest capacity that I can get in whatever firearm that I'm looking at. I love my 1911, I shoot it well, but what really got me down about it, what made me not choose it for self-defense, was the fact that in this specific magazine or another magazine, you're getting 7 or 8 rounds. For me, I don't like going below 10. A double stack 1911 will change it up a little bit for me. I'm a little bit more interested in that. So at the end of the day, guys, you want to go with capacity. So for that big of a gun, for as big of a gun as this 1911 and how heavy it is, I just don't see the pluses and the minuses for just going with the 9mm that's the same size that I can get more in the magazine, therefore more shots on target, like this VP9 here. It's virtually the same size, actually a little bit lighter, and I have 15 in the magazine versus 7 or 8. For me, that's why I go with that caliber, specifically the 9mm. The next thing we want to look at is the type of job. Thus far, I've only been talking about handgun calibers. I haven't gotten into the rifle calibers. And the reason for this, guys, is that any handgun caliber you choose for general civilian self-defense scenarios is going to be more than fine. And that even goes down to 22. It's going to be more than fine to get the job done. But when we start looking at non-civilian types of situations, as far as engagement distances, past the 10-yard mark, we're talking 100 yards and possibly even greater than that, obviously caliber choice is a whole different story. When you're talking about non-civilian engagements, looking at 100 plus yards, it's a totally different story. Then you really do have to look at the differences between the bullet much more. But again, if we're just talking about civilian distances, and that's even using a long gun in home defense distances, which is generally going to be 10 yards and under, whatever caliber you choose is going to get the job done, which is why I then look at capacity, not the size of the bullet. And you're going to see that a recurring theme in what I'm saying tonight is that it's not the size, it's the capacity for me, and I think it should be for a lot of people. And I think a lot of people think way too much about the size because they're thinking that they're going to be in some crazy engagement with somebody 100 yards away, which is just not legally viable for a civilian and just not realistically viable for a civilian to even think about. So in a rule without law situation, yeah, absolutely, then you should start thinking about it. The final thing that I'm going to talk about is leave your ego out of it. Leave it out of there because it's not worth it. You get a larger caliber, which is great, but you have something that can get the job done that's smaller, that's going to be lighter, and that's going to be able for you to get shots on target faster with. Again, for me, it's a no-brainer there. Now, to finish this all up and to wrap it all up, a lot of you are probably going to be asking, well, why did you choose the 9mm for your concealed carry, and why not go with the 22, or why not go with something smaller because it has less recoil, like a 22 mag or a 22 long rifle? Here's the deal, guys. This is an absolutely lethal bullet with proper shot placement, like I said. But another thing you need to realize is reliability of the cartridge. So with 22 LR, you guys have seen it in my videos, occasionally it can just be finicky. The type of cartridge, and this is all over the place that you can view this, the type of primer that's in it with rimfire, it's just hit or miss for reliability. For me, I don't want that as a self-defense option. I can get great groups, great shots on target, great follow-up shots. So that part is wonderful, but when I look at the track record of the reliability of 22LR, it's just not there for me. If I have any calibers in my collection that I shoot a ton but still have issues, it's going to be the 22LR. Now, something like the PMR 30, which is 22 mag, and you have 30 rounds in the magazine, and it's super, super light, that's an awesome option. And I've heard that the Generation 2 has a lot better reliability than the Generation 1, so that would be a legitimate option for me. I just haven't had any trigger time behind it, so I'm not going to give you guys my full opinion on that. So that's going to wrap everything up. I know a lot of people probably got butthurt from this video, but at the end of the day, guys, if you could take anything away from this video, you have to go with the caliber that works best for you. If that's going to be 45, go with 45. For me, it was 9mm. If that's going to be 40 or 380 for you, go with that. And when you're looking at long rifles, it's a little bit of a different story when we're talking about long distance engagements. So thank you guys so much for watching. It's so fun for me to make these videos. I hope you guys are enjoying as well, and stay tuned for the next one.